Hey everyone, I'm Kristen, the cross stitching runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers. If by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. And today is Wednesday, the 22nd of April, and I'm making note of this particular date and timing of recording because this particular episode is going to be filmed in two parts and then joined together. So it will most likely be a little bit longer than some of my recent episodes have been. And the sound quality may be a bit different as well because at the moment we're down here at Mallow Bay and I'm currently set up on our kitchen bench because I just wanted to give you guys just something different to look at in the background because the triptych that we've got in the background are some prints that my mum had found at a store somewhere around here in the Mallow Bay region, Batemans Bay region, and they're really cool. I think they just suit this house and the aesthetic and just something a little bit different for you guys to have a squiz at while I'm chattering away, nattering away. And then on the other side of me, I've got a pile of boxes, most of which are fishing tackle boxes that are holding about 90% of my floss. So that's pretty much my master set of the DMC threads. And I've brought them all with me because I've got this coming weekend the Black Needle Society's Downton Abbey seasons 3 and 4 online stitching retreat that will be starting in Australian time tomorrow at about 9 a.m. And in terms of American time, the schedule is showing to be starting at about 7 p.m. Central Time. So I'm looking forward to catching up with familiar faces, seeing new faces and meeting them, and just having a really good old time doing stitching and catching up with people and uh, doing stuff relating to Downton Abbey. And as a little bit of a side note, the Netflix Australia, we've got the Downton Abbey movie, the final movie, that's coming out, and I actually went and saw it at the movies when it actually first came out last year. Yes, last year at some point. I don't remember the exact timing or anything, but uh, yeah, that was a really cool movie to go and see, and it'd been ages since I'd taken myself out to the movies. So that all said, Um, so yeah, this particular stitching episode will be just the catching up of what I've been working on for the last couple of weeks in the lead up to the 22nd of April, mostly for rounds 5 and 6 of the AFL stitching challenge that I've set for myself. And I do have also a finish for now finish for now kind of thing because I finish in relation to the Downton Abbey stitching retreat, and there's going to be other bits added to it. So I am looking forward to eventually adding to that and getting it finished and all the other jazz that goes with it. Part 2 is going to be in relation to the actual Downton Abbey stitching retreat, and it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to it. I am also very much thankful that this particular retreat is sort of timed around a long weekend that certain states in Australia will get to have because we have on Saturday the Anzac Day public holiday where we get to commemorate the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps for the guys and girls who had fought for Australia and New Zealand during World War II. And that has also expanded out to also just commemorating and acknowledging the amazing efforts that our current serving and served veterans who are and have been defending and protecting Australia since then as well. So, and even prior conflicts as well. So that's just a special weekend for us Australians, and the Monday being a bit of a public holiday for certain states as well. So so that's going to help out a bit with me trying to make the most of the Downton Abbey stitching retreat, because it's all in American timing, which means that with the exception of perhaps tomorrow, every other day in terms of the full days, I'll be up at about midnight, maybe a little bit before midnight Australian local time. And then for the most part doing stitching right through to about 1 o'clock lunchtime. And then I'll have the rest of the afternoon into the evening to recover, try and spend a bit of time with Michael and try and be a little bit social, and then crash out and do it all again for a few days. And look, I won't get into too much detail about it because I'll leave that for part 2. So without further ado, let's get into the actual stitching of what I've been doing for rounds 5 and 6 of the AFL Stitching Challenge. And the first piece that I have to share with you is called Black and White Rolled Up Daisy. It is a hot cross stitching design, and one that I've been working on intermittently for a few years now. And this is where I'm up to. I am stitching this on 18 count black eighter. It started off as being full cross, and it's now transitioning into partial full cross and partial half stitch. And I've been spending a bit of my time, I guess, towards the bottom here, and I've put a minimum of 180 stitches into this because the Collingwood Magpies had won both of their games, one of which was a really, really close game. And yeah, it worked out. It's working out pretty good. Okay, so the next piece that I have to share with you is one that I'm excited about, because I actually ended up focusing on this a bit more so I could actually get the finish in the lead up to the Downton Abbey stitching retreat. So I Am a Custodian is my finish for now. It's finished in terms of the design for seasons 1 and 2 of Downton Abbey. The Black Needle Society have released the digital pattern for seasons 3 and 4, and not as much. There's still a fair bit of stitching for the second part, but it feels, from what I can see, it looks like it's not as much compared to this. I could be wrong. But I also had this piece associated with 2 of the AFL footy teams, which were the Essendon Bombers and Freo Dockers, or Fremantle Dockers. And I'm now going to be at a loss, but it's one of those happy losses of figuring out what to work on now. Now, in the lead up to figuring out my notes and such for this, I initially thought, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to work on now that this is finished. However, I'm taking back those words because, as I just said, the Black Needle Society have released the next stage of stitching for this, so I can keep working on this. I don't need to worry about figuring out what other projects I can substitute in. So I have that problem solved. Everything's all good. So if by chance you follow me on Instagram or we're friends on Facebook, you will have seen this particular finish. The specific details I can give is that I'm stitching or have stitched this 2/2 on 32 count fabric that's been hand dyed by I've got Black Needle Society on the brain. It's been hand dyed by Paddock Lane Designs. It was a misdye because of the odd bits of dye that didn't quite go according to plan. However, I'm not fussed with that because, for starters, I had never consciously worked on 32 count fabric before. This stuff is an absolute dream to work on. Lisa's done a fantastic job with this fabric, I think, and I have used majority of the called for colours for this piece, with the exception of the purple that we see in this. So with the purple that we see for this piece, and I'll carry that throughout the rest of the charts that call for the colour, I've used Classic Colourworks Rainy Day as the purple in place of DMC's 154. And I had also misread the pattern a little bit, where I thought that it had called for Rainy Day, and I think it's all worked out in the end, though. This, yeah, I'm super chuffed with this piece. Okay, so the next piece that I have to share with you hasn't gotten as much love on it as what it should, and there's a little bit of a story to it. So, Fight Like a Girl has had a minimum of 92 stitches on it. I focused mostly, if I can get this right, mostly on the blues just under the scarf for one of our characters here. And if you caught up with a couple of episodes ago, I was talking about Fight Like a Girl and how I had mucked up a little bit with marking off a line of stitching, but I never actually stitched it. So this is where I do love these types of patterns, where I can fudge it a bit and no one's the wiser unless I point it out. So this particular piece is being stitched on 18 count navy blue Aida, and it's actually a really nice fabric to stitch on because I've got some other Aida that I'm working on, and it's proving to be a bit of a challenge. Now, the story behind this particular piece is that I just didn't feel like stitching on it for a little bit because the Melbourne Demons did win, and I just didn't want to work on it. I really wanted to do some stitching on another piece that will come up pretty soon. Again, on navy blue Aida, slightly different count, and it's all worked out in the end because I'll talk more about it soon. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you that I've gotten a bit of stitching on is Country Threads Pelicans, because this one's won both of their games, and I've been able to get a minimum of 206 stitches on it, and this is where I'm up to so far. And I'm stitching this on 14 count. I really want to say 14 count, but after just looking at the 18 count, this is where it does seem very much more like the 14 count instead. So with this particular piece, I focused mostly on the back of the pelican and getting the spots in it filled in just a little bit more, and it's working out pretty good. Okay, now the next piece that I have to share with you is, yes, it is called, I've got it nicknamed as Spanish Proverb, and it's a whole cross-stitching design, and it is a piece. I'm trying to remember it because I don't have my tablet with me right now. Yeah, though you should be seeing the cover page of it on the screen. So you'll be able to see what the quote is for there and what noises from outside. It's all good. So what I'm trying to remember is a life lived in fear is a life half lived. That is the quote that I'm trying to remember. And I'm stitching this on 18 count Ada. And this is where I'm up to. So I have put a minimum of, I've put a minimum of 193 stitches into this, focusing mostly on the darkish brown that we see, which is just under the A. So that is the start of the letter L. And I really do enjoy this piece, and I've got this associated with the team called Hawthorne Hawks, and I'm loving that this team is actually starting to do well again because they have gone through a bit of a rough patch for a few years. They've got some younger people coming through, but they're now finding their feet and they're kicking boots to actually get some decent wins under their belt, which is really good. So that's a Spanish proverb. Okay, now the next piece that I have to share with you is a dimensions kit that I have had for a long time, way longer than I'd like. So it's called Four Seasons Kittens, and I don't have my usual cover page with me, but you'll hopefully be seeing it up on the screen as well as what it looked like before we catch up. And I have put a minimum of 253 stitches into this, majority of which have been 10 stitch. But I have done a little bit of the full cross as well based on the pattern, and I'm loving that I'm being able to finally see some progress with this. And my aim has been to get as much of the 10 stitch around here done as I practically can, because when we start coming over this way, that's where it's going to be the full cross for the cat, or the kitten rather, and I know that I'll be able to power through that a lot more easily, a lot quicker. Not that 10th stitch is hard by any means. I find the counting for 10th stitch to be a challenge based on the way I count my stitches, and it's gotten me into trouble way too many times that I cared to remember. And that's part of why I don't think I would ever do a full covered piece in 10th stitch, because I would more than likely get myself totally effed up and the piece just would not work well at all. So this quarter is just coming along absolutely beautifully. So I also have that piece attributed to the Geelong Cats, and Geelong Cats, as always, are steady, strong. They're not top of the ladder yet, but they will most likely end up being in the top 8, and we'll see how things go. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is called Zebras. It is by Design Works, and I've been putting some extra work into Zebras because I really want to see this finished. And the extra story with Zebras is that I have put some extra stitches in it, partly because I cleaned up my craft room recently, something that I probably should and shouldn't do, because when I go to clean things up, I sometimes forget where I've put stuff because I remembered where it used to be before I cleaned things up. And as a result, I put some extra stitches into this to make up for the Giants winning a game, and I couldn't find the piece that I normally have associated with them. And so that's why Zebra's got a little bit more work done. So I've finished the majority of the zebra over here, finished their nose. I've put a lot more blue stitching in, and I'm slowly working on filling up over this way so I can then come across and do a lot of the oranges and reds and pinks and greens and such that will be over on this side. This piece does have a little bit of back stitching in it as well, but not too much, and it'll be totally worth it as well, just to fully highlight the ears, eyes, and the muzzles as well. Okay, now I actually did end up finding a Stitch in Time, which is the piece that I have associated with the GWS Giants. And the reason why I finally found it was I knew it could have been in at least one of two, three at the most places. And the Stitch in Time ended up being in with a stash of fabric that I've got that is just ready for any project that I want to start working on. And because of the way that I had folded it up, it looked like it was just part of my regular stash of fabric. So this is where I'm up to with a Stitch in Time. This is a Heaven and Earth design based on artwork by Amy Stewart. And the really cool thing is that this particular piece is being worked on by many, many of us Flosstubers. So it's a great thing to see because it gives me motivation to work on this a lot more as well. So I have, what have I been doing? I've filled in a little bit of the amber shelf that we see about halfway down, and then I've worked up from there. And I don't know how many stitches I actually put into this piece. I know it's been a few hundred, but because of this being a full coverage piece, the amount of stitching I've put into it looks like just a drop in the ocean. It doesn't look like much at all. I do like that I'm filling bits and pieces in as we go. And the super cool thing as well with finding this piece is that this fits in with a few of the prompts that the Downton Abbey stitching retreat have called for upcoming stitching challenges. It'll make more sense when I talk about the update in a future video. So I'm looking forward to putting some more stitches into this. And what helps even more is that it's in Pattern Keeper, so it is going to make counting my stitches so much easier for the stitching challenges. So yay, I'm so happy I found this piece because I was near contemplating restarting a Stitch in Time, and even though I was okay with the possible restart, I didn't want to have to restart it because I know that I put so many stitches into this already. Okay, so the next piece that I have to share with you is in plastic. So there is going to be some crinkling. And one of the good things with me talking with my hands and such is that my watch thinks that I have been walking around and I have apparently achieved all of my step goals for today. So the joys of talking with my hands. Now, the next piece that I have to share with you is called Patient Stitcher. And I have this attributed to the AFL stitching team, or AFL team rather, called the St. Kilda Saints, mostly because of the saying, it's probably not a saying, it's possibly something else, but I don't attend church anymore, so I am very sorry for getting this wrong. So here we are. So patience is a virtue. So It's probably not a saying per se, it is something else. Sorry for getting that wrong. This was a pattern that I had picked up when I was at the JK Stitching Retreat a couple of years ago now, and this is where I'm up to. So I'm stitching this on a Paddock Lane Designs fabric. It's 18 count, and the really cool thing is that this is as wide as it's going to be, and I still have almost the double the width of this. So yay, this is really cool that I'm going to be able to continue to use this fabric for some other projects as well. What those projects will be at the moment, who knows? And it's probably best I don't go down that path to wonder what it will be, though I can already tell my cogs are starting to tick over and think of what others I could stitch on this. So with Patient Stitcher, I have put a minimum of 81 stitches into this. I know that it was a lot more than the 81 because I was focusing on mostly the yellow that we see in the center here, and it's not focusing very well. But I'm so happy with how this piece is coming along, and if the Saints win again, my aim is to start doing the words, stitching the words, which would be a dinky dye silk called True Blue. And I'm sorry for the words being around the wrong way and are not focusing, but yeah, this is going to be super cool and it's going to feel really good to work on as well. So I have also been trying to do a bit of catch-up stitching on carousels. Now with carousels, I do have it associated with an AFL team called the North Melbourne Kangaroos, and I've possibly said this in other episodes as well. I am blown away by how well the North Melbourne Kangaroos are doing. They are overdue for actually doing well within this particular season because for quite a few years they have been battling with the West Coast Eagles as to who's going to get the wooden spoon for that particular year. And finally, they can celebrate and say that they don't have to worry about the wooden spoon this year. So, with carousels, the additional background story for this is I am aiming to enter this into the Canberra Royal Show for 2027, and this is where I'm up to. I'm trying to fold over some of the fabric to try and help with showing where I'm up to, and I'm doing a very poor job of it as well. Let's try and get this sorted. So I'm stitching this on 25 count or 28 count Zweigart printed fabric. So it's just printed on one side and it's just blank on the other. Now, what I'm also super chuffed about with this piece is that it fits in with some more of the prompts for the stitching retreat that will be happening quite soon. Now, I don't have my tablet right in front of me to be able to say how many stitches I've done so far, but I do love how this is coming together and the fact that we can just start to see that we can start to see a bit of the Ferris wheel for starters, and some of the bolder colours that we're seeing here. That's where some of the tents are, and we'll start to see some people. And I'm loving this. I am super chuffed with this. So I'm also stitching this 1/1 using all of the Corfu colours. Now, the next two pieces that I have to share with you are ones that weren't actually part of my schedule of stitching or rotation of stitching, but they've been brought into my rotation for the stitching retreat that's coming up. And I wanted to get some more stitching into it so I could justify working on them to an extent, but I don't think we really need much of a justification. So I'm just going to get myself sorted and we'll start sharing some of those pieces. Okay, so the first piece that I've put some stitching into that is in preparation for the stitching retreat is Autumn Lane Stitchery's Moons Out, Blooms Out. My apologies for this potentially being backwards, but part of why I've brought this into my rotation temporarily is one of the prompts is to involve a house. So this is where it actually gave me a really good excuse to frog some areas that I wasn't super happy with. And I don't remember how many episodes ago it was that I talked about this piece, but I did some stitching where we see the variegated pink, and what used to be there was some variegated purple, and I had stitched that in 10 stitch. I just wasn't happy with how that was showing up because the variegated purple in 10 stitch, it was done in 10 stitch because the the thread was just a lot thicker, like triple the thickness of DMC. So I am so happy that I frogged out the purple and put in the pink. Now, the pink is a special die for one of the Gilmore Girls Stitching Retreat boxes from a few years ago. And the pink was representing the first date that no, not the first date. It was a 3-month anniversary date that Rory and Dean went on. And what I'm also wanting to do as well, and I really only picked up on it when I'd finished stitching some of the pink. You may notice that there's a row of darker pink in the skirt of the witch's dress that I don't like how it's sitting, and it's because I stitched that particular row just differently to the rest of the skirt, so of the pink. And so my intention is to frog that a bit and restitch it in the same style as the surrounding rows, so it sits better. It doesn't stand out as much. So that is also where I also found that I needed to do some frogging with a bit of the tree that is started to form near the back of the witch, and I had to frog it a bit because I came to realize that I miscounted a bit, and it's all worked out in the end. And I wanted to really focus on the tree bit so I could then get working on the it's not coming, there we are, so I could get a bit of the houses stitched during the retreat. And this is actually this is 18 count Ada as well. So 18 count navy blue Ada, and this particular Ada is a lot stiffer compared to the other 18 count that the Fight Like a Girl is being stitched on. So it is what it is. It reminds me of why I like stitching on other types of fabric instead. So it will still look stunning when this is done though. It'll be good. Now, the other piece that I've brought back into rotation temporarily is called The Reader. And the the idea initially was, oh yeah, I'll see if I can get a bit of stitching in so I can come down to where you see the heart card, the 3 of hearts. And it's not going to happen. However, this is this is where I'm up to. And this particular piece I have probably started and restarted at least twice. Maybe no, yeah, this I think is my second attempt at it, and I'm very much happier for it. And here we are. So I've started in the middle of, and this is just the first card that is sitting in front of the cap. And I think the three of hearts might be a bit further down here. And given my challenges with counting, and who would have thought that counting to 10 and multiples of 10 would be so flippin' hard? But it is what it is. And I spent most of my stitches uh doing stitching the color DMC 3371, and I put about 282 stitches into it last night. This is all full cross. Now, the exception for this piece in terms of full cross and 10 stitch and such is up the top here. So up the top here, this is me playing around a little bit as well with 10 stitch versus full cross and the different strands that are part of it. And I think I've settled on, I think I've settled on 10th stitch using 2 strands, because when I first started doing the 10th stitch, this was perhaps with just 1 strand, and I wasn't happy with it. And then I started doing at least 2 strands, and I was very much happier with the coverage. And then I have very much come to agree with some people I've seen on other Flosstube episodes talking about Anchor DMC or Anchor Black versus DMC Black. And I've been converted. I, at the moment, very much am preferring Anchor Black to DMC Black, and until their dialogues or their threads change, then I think I may be sticking with Anchor Black, because black is black, and in theory it shouldn't matter as to which company I end up using. So that's pretty much it for the update of stitching. Now, as a segue into I guess even more of a segue into the online stitching retreat that's going to be starting tomorrow at about 10 a.m. Australian time, I've been having some interesting challenges, but in a good way, I hope in the end, with the box for the stitching retreat. So the good thing is the box is here in Australia, it's in Canberra, but I'm not in Canberra, and that's where my challenge is. So I full appreciation to the delivery peoples and the company that is delivering the box. They are definitely trying to deliver the box. The challenge is that I'm not home to be able to accept the box, and the awkwardness is that I'm asking to have the box be left on my front porch, but I don't have any. I'm having struggles with being able to have a special note on the door as well to say to the driver, please leave the box at the door. I've been in contact with the company who are delivering the box as well to say, hey, this is a situation. Can you please let your driver know to please leave the box on the porch? So fingers crossed. I think tomorrow might be their last attempt to deliver the box, now that I've spoken with them and let them know what's going on. Sorry for the tap. Because absolute worst case scenario is that the box will start to get sent back to America. And it's like, no, I've been waiting long enough for this box because of challenges outside of other people's controls and such. And it's like, no, I'm really keen to receive this box. I don't want to jump through extra hoops to have this come back back to where I am, and it'll hopefully work out in the end. And I owe my neighbor some flowers, chocolates, or anything that may be suitable as a way of saying thank you, because she's been absolutely awesome with letting us know that deliveries have tried to happen and that it's just not worked out the way that we'd like, and it'll be okay. We had considered driving back to Canberra and be in Canberra so I could receive the box and even pick it up from a depot, wherever it might have been. And it was just going to be a lot of back and forth driving, and we're about 2 hours drive away from home. And with the way fuel prices are and the fact that we're leading up to a long weekend, and there's a section of road, a 4 hour drive that is notorious for accidents. And over the with the last couple of long weekends that Canberra and New South Wales have had, there have been deaths. There've been some really bad car accidents, and I don't want to get caught up in it. I don't want, if I can avoid us having to travel along this section of road that I'm thinking of the King's Highway, and a lot of Canberrans and the surrounding region know where I'm thinking of with the King's Highway and how bad that road can be. Mostly because of impatient drivers, really. It's a lot to do with that. It's a lot to do with fatigue and people thinking that they're more awake than what they actually are. And then all the other stupid idiots doing drugs while driving, and all the rest that goes with it. So that's why I'm really trying to avoid having to drive on the long weekend, if we can avoid it. So then also just knowing that my timing for being awake is just going to be out of kilter. Um, yeah, it'll be safer for everyone. Not that I'd be driving. I think Michael would probably be driving, but it's also the fact of him having to put up with me being really tired and a bit grumpy, a bit anxious and stressed about getting the box, and then also really wanting to participate in the stitching event. And it's all going to work out in the end, and it'll be okay. It'll be worth it in the end. And I'm so thankful that we're here. Amalua Bay, the weather has been beautiful. Last night we actually had a couple of showers of rain come through that were unexpected. So it was really nice to hear that rain falling, and it was really good. It was really good. So I'm going to wrap up now for this segment of stitching and talking and such, and I'll see you very soon in a few days' time, just after the Downton Abbey stitching retreat. Catch you soon. Welcome back, everyone. Today is Friday, the 1st of May, and I feel like I've pretty well recovered from the Downton Abbey stitching retreat that was hosted by the Black Needle Society, and it was a really good event. I'm so glad I signed up to receive the stitching box, as well as participating as much as I practically could throughout the event. For anyone who is new to my channel and hasn't heard me talk about any of the stitching retreats that have been hosted by the Black Needle Society, specifically their online events, I'll give a bit of a quick rundown with its set up and how it worked, as far as an Aussie trying to fit in with American timing and such. So the event pretty well started online, as far as Australian time is concerned, Thursday morning. It was a half day for us, and the timing was very much based around Central Time, American time. And for it to be a half day, it worked out to being afternoon, evening, Central Time America. And that, I think initially for me, I think for a lot of people, it was a really nice transition into the rest of the event. We had a couple of stitching challenges, and I loved, and it's happened. what I loved with this particular event is that regardless of whether it was for Downton Abbey, Gilmore Girls, or anything like that, it had these really nice blocks of time between each stitching challenge, and it allowed for all of us to be able to do some life things and catch up on some hours if we were so inclined, go have lunch, dinner, have breakfast, or anything in between. And it worked out pretty good, and there were, I think, about 18 to 20 stitching challenges throughout the 4 days. So from in Australian time, it was a half day Thursday, then full days Friday to Sunday, and then it was a half day on Monday, and we wrapped up, I think it was close to 11 o'clock Australian time in the morning, and that was, I think, sometime Sunday afternoon, American Central Time. That that was pretty cool. I love being able to see a lot of familiar faces from other stitching retreats that I've been part of, specifically the ones that have been hosted by the Black Needle Society. And it was really good to meet some new faces as well, and just to hear a lot more about America. And it I felt reassured that some of the things that we're experiencing here in Australia, America's experiencing some similar things. So it sucks that it is the way it is, and I think all of us are looking forward to things improving. And it was just a really nice distraction to be able to catch up via Zoom and to be stitching and having these little hours of power that I called them. So the hours of power were the stitching challenges, and each challenge went for an hour, and each challenge had a different prompt that we want if we wanted to do the challenge that we needed to meet. And one of the really cool things that surprised me with these stitching challenges is that I improved on what I thought was my hourly stitching rate. And in years gone by, I found out that I would be able to stitch roughly 100 stitches per hour, and that was more specifically if I was chattering away amongst the stitching challenges as well. And I think it also depended on what projects I was working on at the time. What I also found was that if I wasn't talking too much, if at all, then my stitching rate went up a bit more. So to be a bit more specific, I averaged about 134 stitches per hour, and that was if I was chattering away a little bit during the stitching challenges. And then if I was a bit more focused, and if I was also working on some projects that didn't require too many color changes, then I'd be able to get closer to 160 something stitches. I think one hour there, there was a bit of a spike, and I'll need to go back through my notes to find which project it was. And it was one of those hours where I was fully focused on what I was doing. I just wasn't talking. I was happy to be hearing other people chattering away, and I somehow managed to get a bit over 200 stitches done. And I was a bit worried that my eyes were tired and I wasn't counting properly, because that was another challenge that I experienced throughout the retreat, the whole tired sleep deprivation side of things. It was well worth it though. It was something that I would certainly do again, and I would probably try and have a few more naps between the stitching challenges to try and not feel so exhausted and wiped out. I think a part of it though is the fact that I'm getting a little bit older now. Not that I'm grandparent old yet. I will eventually get to that age. I think it was just, yeah, it was just hours. I needed some more hours of sleep. it was well worth it though. So the other bit of challenge that I had, and I did talk a little bit about it at the end of the first part of this video, was trying to arrange to have the box delivered. So when we sign up for any of the Black Needle Society stitching retreats, we've paid X amount of money to receive a box of goodies that are very much related to the stitching event or the stitching retreat that we're going to be part of. And I didn't know if we're going to be here in Canberra or down at Malua Bay. And it turned out that we did end up going down to Malua Bay for a bit over a week, maybe a week and a half. And it meant that it was a challenge for the delivery driver to be able to drop off the box. Everything worked out sweet. Thank goodness for an amazing neighbour. She was fantastic with being totally okay with helping out with signing for the box and all the rest for it. So with all of that in mind, let's take a quick look at some of the really cool and awesome stuff that came in this year's Downton Abbey Stitching Retreat box. So we have this, first off, this cool bag, and the quote on it says, "The business of life is the acquisition of memories. In the end, that's all there is." And the character Carson had said that. And this is a really cool tote bag, and I'm looking forward to being able to use this in my everyday life. This could end up being one of my stitching bags. Who knows? Now, we can also see we've got another little bag sticking out, and let's get coordinated here. So this is the project bag for this year's retreat, covering seasons 3 and 4. And inside it, I am keeping all the goodies together, which is working out pretty good. Now, the other really cool thing, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about it as time goes on, I received a $10 voucher as part of the stitching retreat, but I'll get into that super soon. So we received some specialty threads that are colour and cotton threads that were hand dyed specifically for the stitching retreat. And these are the 4 colours that came through. One of them's hiding a little bit. Now, this particular thread here, where it's got where it's the variegated oranges, this is giving me strong Gilmore Girls vibes. I was talking a bit about it with my partner Michael, saying that I need to do a dive back into my specialty thread stash, because this particular thread is just reminding me of a very similar variegated thread that came with the Gilmore Girls box, one of them. And I'm looking forward to doing a comparison. And actually, I'm going to need to do this now. Bear with me for a moment. Okay, so I wasn't going too nutty on this one. So again, colour and cotton. This one here is Autumn Leaves that came from one of the Gilmore Girls stitching retreats. And then this one is the Downton Abbey one that we received this year. So they are super similar. And I think that if I can find a pattern or chart that could truly complement these, I think this would be absolutely awesome. And I've got a few thoughts and ideas. Those thoughts and ideas could very easily change, but I'm super thankful that I double checked this, because again, Autumn Leaves has got a bit more red in it. And then this one, which is called Irish Rebel Burns Drumgool Castle, this one's got a little bit more yellow in it, so it's still looking good though. Okay, now aside from those specialty threads, we also received a fat quarter, or no, not a fat quarter, a 1/8 yard of 32 count Lugana, which is a Be Stitch Me fabric, and it's called Saving the Downton Picks. I love this. I love this fabric. I think it's super cool. And I've got a couple of thoughts of what I'd like to stitch on this. Now, I mentioned earlier that I received a $10 gift voucher as part of the stitching retreat. With the stitching retreat, at certain points throughout the retreat, the lovely ladies of BNS would do some Facebook lives, and that's where they would uh, do lucky door prizes, so to speak, where they'd have the numbers 1 through to 100 and something, and they'd spin the wheel and draw X amount of numbers. And then the other prizes were associated with whoever won certain stitching challenges throughout the event, or throughout the retreat rather. And I was lucky enough to win one of the stitching challenges, which I think was surprising and super cool. And I had the option of choosing between 123 Stitch or Be Stitch Me. And I had a quick look, or yeah, I had a bit of a look at both websites, and I have ordered from 123 Stitch before, and I decided to go with 123 Stitch again. And one of the charts that I've purchased might actually look really good on this fabric. So when all of that comes through, I'll be able to share with you what those goodies were. I definitely well and truly spent more than the $10 allotment, and it was well worth it because I ended up purchasing a chart that I had been umming and ahhing about around February, and I wasn't too sure as to whether to buy it or not, and I did. I ended up buying it. So it's all good. So absolutely love this fabric. Now, all the other ones, there was also a freebie called Hold My Hand by Black Needle Society. And apparently it's based on some lyrics from Bare Naked Ladies, perhaps. So it says, "You can always hold my hand if you need to feel steady." I've, I don't know if I've heard the song. The lyrics aren't familiar to me. It's totally okay though. So, what's some of the other stuff that we received? We also received some recipe cards. The first card that is here, I haven't taken the plastic off, is truffled eggs on toast, which sound quite interesting. I may not, I'm not going to invest in any kind of truffle oil. I have tried truffled eggs before or something very similar to that. Not a huge fan of it. It was sadly a waste on me, and I know that truffles are an expensive ingredient, so I felt bad that I wasted that. So anyway, ingredients cards. Now this is an iron on, and I'll just get this sitting behind it a bit better. Okay, so she runs on indignation. Now, I'm not totally sure on which fabric I'm going to use this iron-on for. I am inclined to use this for a project bag. I've got tons of fabric, and I've had the best of intentions to actually create some more project bags and such, and I need to pull my finger out and do it. I've got plenty of time now. It'll mean that I need to clear the desk next to me, but it'll be an excuse to clean things up and then grumble about how I've cleaned up and then lost stuff or forgotten where I've put things. And I also ended up purchasing the digital version of part 2 of the chart. It is beautiful. It really is. And I have started on the bottom here. So we've got a couple of the people standing in the doorway. I'm having an absolute mental blank when it comes to names and such. And what I'm starting to think with some of the red up top, I realized that it made maybe wallpaper and such. I was considering doing some beading with the stars around the castle and such, but I'm thinking that with the red, especially with the wallpaper up top, that that's where I'll use some beads because I've got a ton of red beads that I need to use, and I don't know when I'm ever going to end up using those beads. So I think the red for that could work out really well. I'll need to I'll need to figure out my timing for that a bit because there are going to be um, more stitching to do on either side of the castle here, and hoops and beads, pardon me, will be a challenge. So that, oh, and there's also a candle, beautiful smelling candles, probably about year high, and it smells so good. I'm looking forward to burning that candle and enjoying the aromas that come with it. And I'm also just having a look at the back of this just to see if I as to whether I've missed anything in terms of showing you stuff. And I think for much of a muchness, that was it. Yes, I think we're okay. I think we're good. So that was this is future me. As I was going through editing, cleaning things up a little bit and moving some stuff around, turns out that I did miss a couple of things that came in the box that were hidden by me just doing a bit of a dump of specialty threads on the desk to compare autumn leaves with the dude who ends up burning the castle down. So the two things that I ended up missing were the needle minder and let's see, hopefully there's not too much of a glare. So needle minder, and then we've got some special floss cards that have got some of the different character names of Downton Abbey on it, and a special ring to keep them all together. And so ring, cute little bag, and then these really nice solid floss drop cards. So we've got pretty well all of the key characters, main characters in the show, and they're really nice. I'm looking forward to using these, and I think it will work out pretty good to use them when I'm stitching on the Downton Abbey pieces. That is just going to be super good. So that was just a quick little thing that I wanted to say about just a few of the things that I missed previously. Okay. I think we're good. So that was pretty much it for stitching stuff. It was all good, and it was just a really good event. I'm looking forward to the next year's event, and I think that's about it. I'm just double checking my notes just to be sure I haven't missed anything. Now, in terms of what projects I worked on during the stitching events, stitching events, I'll share those as part of my next regular Flosstube because I really do need to get back into the flow of the routine of things because again today is Friday the 1st of May. We are in the very early games of round 8 of the AFL Stitching Challenge, and we've had one game be played last night. Tonight there's going to be a couple of games and then it'll flow through for the rest of the time, and that's about it. So I know that when I join everything together, this video will be a fairly long one. So thank you so much for spending a bit of time with me. I hope that you've been able to get a bit of stitching done. If I could speak properly, it's in the morning as well. I can't even blame the morning for for not being able to speak well. So what I would like to say, again, if I can get the words right, I hope you've been able to get some stitching done. I hope that you're able to like, subscribe, ring the bell if you can, so you can get the notifications for when I next release another Flosstube video, and comment below if there's any questions, queries, whichever that you may have. And until next time, happy stitching everyone, and I'll see you next time.